Hassam. Just before the break, we chatted to Nadia Baiji Valley and Smear Dowji about the relevance and necessity for support in our communities and what kind of active role we need to take in tending to our emotional and mental health. And now, taking us into the afternoon, we are going to unpack the role of self care and support and how that plays. What kind of role that plays on our emotional and mental health. What I've noticed is that a lot of attention is paid on working on our external selves when it comes to personal development. We look at working on our relationships with our spouses, our kids, our family members. We emphasize changing our health, our lifestyle, working out, eating well, but when we really think of ourselves, we get stuck in the past or we stuck at ways to work on our inner self. And on the line, I have a guest that has managed to turn her pain into purpose. With me on air this morning is Penny. Penny was raised in Johannesburg. She's a mother and grandmother. She loves cooking, baking, doing jigsaw puzzles, playing bridge, reading, sunset socializing, and seaside vacations. Penny's been a life coach for 12 years, and over the past 6 years, she's been trying to do everything in her power to learn about narcissism and codependency. And today, she uses her expertise to coach victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse, facilitating their empowerment and healing. So, I would like to welcome Penny onto the show. Hi, Penny, how are you?
Hi, Johar. Fine, thank you. And you? Thank you so much for
I'm
inviting me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, such a pleasure. I'm so happy to have included you because you know that this is something I'm passionate about, healing, inclusion, and really just amplifying the voices of the victims is something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm very delighted that you agreed, considering the delicate nature of your work, working with victims of narcissist abuse. But I'm so glad that we can create these spaces to really shed light on these matters because they aren't talked about enough, right?
Hmm. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. There's not enough awareness.
you're right. So, Penny, tell us what is your take on working with our inner selves and why do you believe it's important?
So I believe it's incredibly important to work on one's inner self. We actually need to make the time for doing things that help us to relax, that reduce stress and anxiety. So things like meditation, prayer, using words that encourage self-love, such as I love you, I'm listening, which allows your inner child to express themselves, which is something they were possibly not able to do in their family of origin. So this is effectively the beginning of inner child work. And for
Mhm.
me personally, I believe that inner child work is absolutely key to healing. We need to go back and do the grief work for our inner child because as little children, they were incapable of grieving their losses. We need to understand what incident or incidents made you fearful, what hurt you, what caused you shame, and feelings of not being good enough or unlovable. And we must be a loving parent to our inner child and reassure him or her that they are safe, loved, and heard. They need to know that we as adults will protect them from harm and never leave them. So this is the way to begin to love oneself. And if we love ourselves, we'll be able to have healthy relationships. So we won't need external validation as we will believe in our abilities, talents, and gifts. So, yeah, I think for me that's the most important thing. We have to learn that we can give ourselves the love that we need. We don't need to buy into the common belief that we need somebody else to complete us as
I
we learn
absolutely
to.
love. Yes, Penny, I completely agree with you. And having done inner child work myself, I got stuck at the process of grieving because, like you mentioned, inner children, when we are children, we aren't really given the platform to grieve, or we aren't given the platform to recognize the complex emotions we are dealing with. But now, with our adult minds and our adult selves, we have to create that safety for our fragmented inner selves. And that was somewhere I really, really got stuck with the grief process. And when I allowed myself to open up to grieving and to letting go of what was and accepting that I can't change it, but now I can give myself the safety, the protection, the love, the validation, and the security that I need as an adult, I really saw huge transformations in myself. And what I've noticed is that as humans, we become resistant to change and to growth. And we become so stuck in our lives, we are almost on autopilot. And we're going to need to take a break soon, but maybe you can quickly share with us before we go for a break, how can we be more receptive and adaptable to change?
Well, the most interesting thing is that in life, change is the only constant in life.
Yes.
And we need to embrace it. It's always going to be there. So if we resist it, often people resist it. They prefer to stay in their comfort zone, even if it's an uncomfortable comfort zone.
Yes.
Maybe you're in a toxic relationship, for instance. But if we resist, we'll stay stuck. We'll miss out on so many opportunities for improvement and to enjoy life. So we need to become aware of how we're feeling in any situation, our home life, our relationships, or our work environment. And then I think the best thing to do is to ask yourself the question, what do I want? Because we often are doing things for others and we kind of neglect to stop it and think. So, what are my needs? What do I want? And then why do I want it? And how will I feel if I had that in my life?
Those are really important questions. I'd like to get back into that after the break. Stay with us. You're listening to Salam Media, and on air with me is Penny. After the break, we'll get back into toxic relationships and how we can tend to our personal needs.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world, where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain developing company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Decades of war, devastating drought, and economic collapse have pushed the Afghan people to the edge of survival. 24 million need life-saving aid, and 5 million children are knocking on famine's door. The world cannot just watch as this terrible crisis unfolds. With your support, the Al-Imdad Foundation is delivering emergency relief to the Afghan people. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
With so many investment options today, it's only natural that you might feel a little confused which route to take. Should I buy shares or should I invest in gold bullion? Randery Jewelers now brings you the Zahab coin, an alternative to the Kruger Rand. The Zahab coin, a solid wealth protector in its purest form of 24-karat gold, is the safest way to protect your wealth. So don't just sit there and watch your paper money depreciate. Change to gold. Call Randery Jewelers now at 031 202 4701 or visit www.rjcoin.co.za, situated at 151 Essenwood Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Approximately 785 million people in this world do not have access to safe, clean water. In developing countries, around 80% of all illnesses are due to contaminated water and poor sanitation. Don't let dirty water end a life. Build a water well. In Bangladesh, Malawi, Nepal, Zimbabwe, or here at home in South Africa, Donate to Penny Appeal's Thirst Relief Project to bring safe, clean water to communities around the world. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
You're back in Salam Media with me, Jauhara Hassam, and with me on the line is Penny, who is passionate about helping people who are hurting, specifically those who are in narcissistic relationships. Penny, just before the break, you mentioned something about toxic relationships. Can you share with us what are the steps that people can take after they realize that they are in a relationship with a narcissist or a toxic person?
Yes, well, once they've become aware that they're in a relationship with a narcissist or toxic person, the most important thing to do actually is to educate themselves as much as possible on narcissism. You know, to find what their character traits are, the way they abuse people, to learn coping skills whilst they're in the relationship with that person. Education is so very important because many people aren't even aware what narcissism is. If they want to, they can go and listen to Dr. Ramani. She's an expert on YouTube. She's been doing it for many, many years, and she covers every aspect of narcissism. So whilst awareness is the first step, education is the second, and thereafter you eventually reach a point of acceptance that they are who they are, and it's very likely that they're not going to change. So you have to take responsibility for your happiness. If you can't leave for some reason, then you have to practice self-care. You have to use coping tools to maintain your sanity, and join a support group, which is incredibly helpful in healing. So if you're in a relationship and you reach the point when you kind of say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I've got to get out of here, then you need to take action and make plans as to how to leave and not go back. So it's the 3 A's. It's awareness, it's acceptance, and then it's action. That's what needs to do.
That's fantastic. So awareness, acceptance, and action, those are the steps that Penny advises you take if you recognize or realize that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. There's this huge buzz on social media about narcissism. Can you share with us what the effects on a person's mental health and emotional well-being are if you are involved with a toxic person or a narcissist? Because we focus, there's a lot of education right now on what the characteristics and the traits of narcissism is, but we don't really understand how it impacts the victim, how it impacts the person who is living in this relationship, the child of, the wife of, the daughter-in-law of. What are the effects on a person's mental and emotional health, and what can they really do to heal?
Being in a narc relationship, it's incredibly damaging to one's health. It's a very insidious form of abuse. You don't really know it's happening until you're too deep in. They use physical, psychological, emotional, verbal, financial, sexual, and spiritual abuse. But the problem is, if there's no physical abuse in that relationship, many are unaware that what they're being subjected to is even abusive. So they get criticized, belittled, they accuse you, they blame shift, frustrate you because they can never resolve any problems, and then completely confuse you by gaslighting, which is denying the truth, such that you eventually completely doubt yourself and you can't trust your perception of reality.
And that in itself is another form of psychological abuse.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And then when you're sort of at your lowest point, then they tell you that you're crazy and you need help. And unfortunately, it's good because you actually begin to believe that you are the problem. But eventually you become a complete shell of yourself. You have absolutely no confidence. you're walking on eggshells in fear of their wrath, and you inevitably suffer from anxiety and depression. It's harmful because you lose your identity. You have no idea of who you are anymore. They steal your joy, they kill your spirit, and they destroy the very essence of who you are. But not only is one's mental health affected, but your physical health deteriorates too. So abusive relationships cause trauma, which is stored in the body and leads to many illnesses such as autoimmune disease or fibromyalgia and even cancer. So healing involves an understanding of codependency, actually, because codependent people or people pleasers or empaths are usually attracted to a narcissist, or the narcissist chooses them. But we allow the abuse unknowingly because we have incredibly weak boundaries. We forgive far too much.
And I think it also stems from how our nervous systems are wired from childhood. So if we've been predisposed to any kinds of traumatic events, our nervous system would automatically seek it out in adulthood. So that's how, at a very subconscious level, without even meaning to, that is how these systems and these cycles of abuse are inevitably just, recycled over and over again. Penny, we could talk for hours more, but we need to wrap up. And in conclusion, can you share with us? You are the founder of NASG, which is a narcissistic abuse support group. And you are passionate about helping people that are hurting. And you find it so encouraging to see the abuse changing for the good due to the support that they receive. Can you share with us, in a quick 2 minutes, what do you feel the role of support plays in healing from abusive relationships?
So support is actually essential because it validates the abuse. So when you speak to friends or family, what happens is they don't really understand because the person they see, the only person they know, is the one that presents themselves to society. So usually charming and generous and life and soul of the party, or somebody that appears to be kind and compassionate and caring, but they don't believe you. So if you're in a support system, you're speaking to people who've been abused by the same kind of thing. They understand it's really important so that you don't feel ashamed. People understand, they validate. You can actually go onto WhatsApp support groups 24/7. We have support groups throughout the country, Cape Town, Durban, Wilderness, 2 in Johannesburg, where you meet face to face. And we often invite guest speakers so they're further educated and supported and encouraged. And just meeting one another, feel like they've finally met their families. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It really changes people's lives.
I find it absolutely incredible. And I'm absolutely not ashamed to say that I'm a member of a narcissist abuse support group. I avidly attend on the last Saturday of every month, which means that I will be seeing Penny on the 27th of August. I look very forward to that. Penny, do you have any special guests at NASG on Saturday in Bryanston?
I've had a special guest for quite a few. This week, I'm actually focusing on becoming more childlike and using, tapping into our child, that we can stress become less intense. So I'm actually focusing on that. Do a few healing works, but do a few fun things for the people. And next month, we have a person who is a trauma-sensitive yoga teacher. So that's going to be very fascinating.
Beautiful. I look so forward to that, Penny. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for so delicately sharing how important healing is after being or during while being in a relationship with a narcissist, what self-awareness, acceptance, and taking action really means when we have made the realization that we are in an abusive relationship, and the steps that we can take to empower and educate ourselves moving forward. That was Penny Norman on air. You are with me, Jahara Hassan, on Salam Media. We're going to go for a quick midday break, and when we come back, I have more special guests waiting to share their valuable information with you, inshallah.